So hello everyone. It's a pleasure having you here. Today we will talk about how Rakuten has built and grown our current global tech organization. And panelists here have been driving this growth over the past year, so they will talk about their experiences. For the start, I would like to ask each participant to introduce themselves, their current role, as well as their organization they're in charge of. So Kaoru, please.
So very nice to meet you. Thank you very much for joining the session today. So my name is Kaoru. I have been working in Rakuten over 18 years, and I'm a pure Japanese, born in Japan, and live and grew in pure Japan. The working experience in Japan until my age of the 40. So my experience to go to take a European role for 2.5 years after 40 years, and I come back 2016 and take at this moment head up the global IT, which is a responsibility for the email and office IT and a unified communication and also HR and finance system as of the global company. So today I'm happy to share my experience with you.
And I would like to add that Kaoru is in charge of this wonderful video conference system that makes this remote panel possible. So next to India, Sunil, please share a few words about yourself and Rakuten India.
Yeah, thank you, Zoran. I lead Rakuten India. I have been with Rakuten for almost 3 years now. And prior to that, I have worked in US for almost 15 years, in Singapore, and last 6 years in India. And Rakuten India is a global research and development organization, part of Rakuten Technology division. We not only work on a lot of core technologies, it could be anywhere from blockchain to application performance management, ID management, and so on. We also do business enablement of our global businesses, such as e-commerce, travel, fintech, and so on. We are now almost a 700-member organization, of engineers and product managers, and we look for many more long years at Rakuten. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sunil. Then we go ahead with Bjorn from the San Mateo office. Please, Bjorn.
Okay, thank you, Zoran. Yeah, so my name is Bjorn Laukli. I have a couple of different roles within the organization. One of them is leading what we call the technology division here in the Americas. We have roughly 150 people, and I'm also leading the technical side of Rakuten.com, the marketplace. I've been with the company for 5.5 years, but basically since the late 90s, I've been working for global companies, and being part of the Rakuten family, also I've been able to leverage some of the skills even from past lives. Within AMTD, as we do for acronyms here, we have different functions, different skills, and provide basically platforms, products, and services for all of the different business units here in the Americas. And with the marketplace side also, we have product teams, we have marketing teams, customer support, and also engineering team that is helping to grow, of course, the marketplace. And what's kind of interesting also in that setting, it's a global development team, so we work closely with Japan and other offices around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bjorn. So I'm Zoran. I joined Rakuten in 2011, and for the past 7 years, I've been in Europe, and I'm currently leading the Rakuten's global tech teams in Europe, the Europe Tech division. So now we would like to cover different topics related to the global tech, to our organization. The way Rakuten has been growing abroad is, on one hand, by starting from scratch new business and tech teams, and on the other hand, through the acquisitions of the companies. And one very important aspect of this is the post-merger integration. This has been happening a lot in Americas region as well as in Europe. So I would like to ask Bjorn to comment on that topic a bit.
Yes, okay, thank you so much. Yes, as Zoran is just mentioning, so a lot of the growth outside of Japan has been by acquisitions to kind of get a footprint in new countries and new regions. And it's always easy to think about, when you do what we call PMI or post-merger integration, focusing on the technical side, and that's a very important part of it. And that's what, as you go through the whole acquisition process, is you have a plan, and even in my, let's say, 5.5 years here, every time we have done an acquisition, we've gotten better at it. There's one component I think we have even gotten better at, and that's not necessarily a technology aspect, but it's about the culture. And I think Rakuten has done a really nice job in establishing a good foundation through what we call, let's say, Shugi or the corporate culture, the same values for all of us. And as people are kind of getting into the Rakuten world, we have the same, let's say, philosophy and the same core values from office to office, region to region, and so on. So that's just one side of it. I think that's a really important part of how we have actually been able to be more successful lately in terms of doing it. The other part, of course, is more on the technical side. Each company, as they're being acquired, have all different infrastructure, different tools, different systems. They have different platforms. And I can just speak from more, I know Kaoru is going to touch on some of this also, but what we are trying to do as a company is having certain modules or platforms integrated and replaced within the companies we're acquiring because they're core to our business growth. As you hear over and over again, we are all about, let's say, the brand, the memberships, and the data. For us to execute successfully, and yes, maybe on the technology side, we are not maybe so much about driving the brand side, except word of mouth, and we are supporting, of course, with maybe technologies underneath. But from the membership side and the data, we bring in, let's say, Rakuten ID. We have the search platform, we have the catalog platform, and we have some of these modules that we would like all of the businesses to actually deploy, because it's going to be so much easier for us to have these common components or platforms all across the board, because it creates opportunities and kind of connecting the dots on the back end. And that is one of our goals and strengths, I think, and why we have been so successful, for example, in Asia and Japan in particular, because we have kind of been able to do that. And that's what we are aiming for also here in the Americas, and I think also speaking for Zoran here for Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bjorn. As a part of the post-merger integration, as Bjorn has mentioned, the tech side is important, and within this, the corporate IT systems are the key. I would like to ask Kaoru to just share a few words about the experiences of introducing the corporate IT systems as a part of the post-merger integrations.
Sure. So I think in the very beginning of the Rakuten globalization, and I think the first acquisition with Global was maybe in 2007, and we a little bit underestimate how like tools or like IT is important for collaboration and communication. So I would say the unified communication or video conference is just not the connectivity, but for the supporting people's communication. So if we only have local tools to try to connect each other, it is a little bit difficult to have a one company culture. So it is easy to create the us and them culture if people using the existing tools and behaving differently, then sometimes occasionally talked with a global team. So it is so difficult. So then we recently start to take approach to when we acquire a company, we budget from the beginning as a M&A process to how much the initial PMI cost is. So after having that structure, we have the acquisition, then having the post-merger integration, scoping IT immediately after acquisition. Then we have now a single communication tool in everywhere. And if you turn on the video from the 30 days after the acquisition, they just can connect to the headquarter people to communicate each other. So my role is the IT, global IT, is to support communication and collaboration tools. And also information system is taking crucial part as well. If having one single HR or single human capital information and also financial capital information as a single makes executives and management to see the same data to run together. So the single master data, in addition to the collaboration and communication tools, is a very important part, I would say.
Thank you very much, Kaoru. So after touching upon the post-merger integration, we'd like to talk a bit about innovation, how to drive innovation in this very distributed global environment. I believe Sunil has some comments on this topic.
Yeah, thanks, Zoran. So as you can see, a couple of things that we do to drive innovation, right? I mean, of course, Rakuten has this fantastic, nearly 70 plus global services. And when you have these global services, there is always an opportunity to have some common frameworks or common applications, common technologies that almost all of them are going to need. It could be anything from as simple as, it could be a merchant onboarding tool. It could be infrastructure level technology such as application performance monitoring, serverless computing, API servers, things like that. It could be data applications, right? Like A/B testing platforms, data science as a platform, machine learning as a platform. So once you identify these common frameworks, it becomes that much more easier to innovate, right? Regardless of whether you're sitting in Bangalore or US or Europe or Japan, having this basic understanding of common needs is very, very helpful. The second thing also is, Rakuten does a fantastic job of engagement at all levels. For example, there's the leadership summits where you connect with, senior executives and leaders who describe their vision. Then we have, mid-level manager summits, right? Which interestingly, what happened in Bangalore, the last couple of ones, right? There's one for cloud that happened here. Now the securities team will have their manager summit. So a lot of ideas flow back and forth very frequently. So this makes sure that the technologists and the product people, whoever is sitting remotely, has the same understanding of customer needs, technology needs that anybody else may be having in Japan or US. Right? So that brings us onto a very, very common page. So that makes it a lot more easier for us to innovate. Secondly, and thirdly, finally, right, it's about the kind of talent you have in the organization. We have a lot of youngsters who have just graduated from college that we hire continuously. And so they are exposed to a lot of the latest, greatest technologies, right? Whether it's AI or machine learning, blockchain, mobile design. So they come with their own fresh ideas. And we have a framework for bottoms-up innovation, right? Where we say, for example, we are doing a hackathon, or Rakuten as part of RTC today in India, where we are allowing bottoms-up innovation to come up. And we look at how does this match to what Rakuten as an organization needs? And I'm sure there'll be some intersects there, which will be very helpful to us. So those are some examples of how we try to, innovate.
Thank you very much, Sunil. Kaoru, would you like to add anything on the topic?
Thank you. So let me share my experience of my team. So when I think the working as a global team with the different team size is quite challenging sometimes. So we have the 150 members in a global IT, but over 100 is sitting in Japan. This is very aligned to the company size and population of the Rakuten global population, but this is sometimes it's sometimes difficult to run the global project. So when we start our team start to install this video conference system by Zoom, so US is already adopting the US or Bay Area is already common in using the Zoom. But we used Cisco's web system before that, and then the system is running in Singapore as a single instance. So US experience a very disconnection or low latency. So, but this was not from the entire population of the company. We a little bit deprioritize US. This is a US issue. But when we start installing Zoom, we took approach with a POC to get a small start and getting users' feedback. So not only having the internal discussion, but involving the users' feedback. Actually, user prefer Zoom in the US. That changed a lot. So we run the Zoom POC with assigning the America team as core project members. But the America's team is quite small, and they are very busy always to support the local IT, and they have only five or six people. Then that was a little bit difficult for them to allocate their resource to the global project. So then it is easily makes global the headquarters side. We cannot track the progress of the Zoom POC by US side. The US is so busy about the local support. So then each team leaders of Japan and the US need to very work carefully or talk deeply try to assign the US members to assign the strategic global project while they are very busy for the local support. So those, not only the project, global project, small POC, we definitely involving the leaders in each region is so important to them to allocate their resource to the global project, because this is a great opportunity for them to work for the global project. So those leaders' understanding and alignment is so important.
So thank you very much, Kaoru. So in the previous comments, Sunil and Bjorn have mentioned our global IT, global software platforms and components. The value of them is that they have been used and they are being more and more used across the globe in the Rakuten Group companies. So we can, the use cases from each company help us improve those platforms and further drive the business. While doing this, a very important aspect we need to deal with is the balance between the local, regional requirements and the global ones, because we have platforms which are used all across the globe. I think Bjorn has a lot of experience with this topic of trying to find the right balance between the regional and the global requirements. So Bjorn, could you touch upon this topic?
Okay. Thank you so much, Zoran. Yeah, so I think this is a key element for Rakuten growing as a company. And we need to find the right balance between, let's say, global needs and also local needs. And just on the previous topic about innovation, there's a lot of stuff that's happening on the local or regional level that can actually be incorporated also on a global level, and we can actually scale through that. So I can talk more specifically for some of the teams that we have been pretty successful at. So we have basically, one of the teams is a big data team, and half of the team is really focusing on the global side, but it's incorporating a lot of the requirements that we see from the regional side. And that's how we're doing it. So that means we are working here in the US, maybe with rewards, maybe with RDC, the marketplace, Kobo, and so on. And we're, together with these teams, we're driving innovation, new requirements. And these teams are sometimes just doing it pretty quickly for that particular business unit. But what we're doing at the same time is also productizing it. So we're rolling it back into the platform that could be deployed in France, Germany, or it could be back in Japan or Taiwan. So it's constantly trying to see how we can evolve as an organization. And I think that's important to think about for all of the people in Rakuten. Yes, you wear maybe your business unit hat or your team hat, but it's really all about one team. How can we actually help scaling the business in the most effective way? Obviously, some of the challenges we run into, and I think that's for any global company, is the different, there's a time zones or cultures, this and that. So it's about up to the team to kind of create a good system so you can communicate effectively. And that's sometimes a challenge, but I think if you work with all of the different regions that contribute, let's say in this case, maybe a global platform, you create a system. Yes, you might meet up maybe once a quarter, just so you have some FaceTime also. And that's something that we have done pretty effectively. I can speak also for, let's say, the catalog platform initiative or over our IT team. They're doing something very similar also. And I think finding that balance between local and regional is really important. And sometimes, yeah, you have to make some tough decisions in terms of prioritizations. And eventually you learn how to work with the different executives or stakeholders to help prioritizing those needs. So I think that's all, Zoran, if you want to.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bjorn. So Kaoru, the corporate IT systems, I think most widely used and most consistently across all of our group companies worldwide. So how do you manage this right balance between the local and the global needs?
Yeah, so I think we have a leadership meeting annually, and also like occasionally in each function, for example, like infra section and the user support and then the device, to have the annual meetup to discuss what is the roadmap and so on. So the local teams has a more, this is a responsibility for local team to bring their local or regional requirements to bring to the Tokyo to discuss. That would be the included in the roadmap. in a global. And of course, the headquarter people has a more like a bigger organization to have each teams has a little bit silo and have a little bit different distance from users, while the local team is facing users more frequently. So then the headquarter people need to respect their opinion, because we don't so much get the face-to-face communication with the users. So that's those, little bit understand differences, and also give the respect is a very important piece.
Thank you very much, Kaoru. So the next topic we'd like to touch upon is our leadership and management. In order to deal with all the different topics we have mentioned, it's necessary to have the right mindset and to be able to actually, through both our hiring process and our internal training process, make sure that we are all aligned with the global direction. So I would like to ask Sunil and then Bjorn to comment on this topic of hiring, the senior leadership, as well as the training of the managers. Sunil, please.
Sure. Thanks. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a very, very probably the most important job function that I do, which is to hire the right senior leaders into the organization, right? Because that's where the entire destiny of the organization, the productivity, culture, everything comes from the senior leadership team. So a couple of things we do, when we hire new senior leaders is we look for people with self-drive, because what you want at that role, at that level is not doers but drivers, right? You need people who can think big, who can constantly drive their team, set the bar very high energy and high passion, right? So that's really one criteria. The second criteria is sort of industry and domain knowledge, right? For example, if you're hiring somebody for cloud or blockchain, you want somebody who has ideally worked in the industry for 10 to 20 years with and has seen transformation of this technology in the industry, right? And they're very well aware of the latest technologies, challenges with scale, pros and cons, costs, you name it, right? So they have to be domain specialists. The third one is they themselves have to build the right organizations, right? When you hire a senior leader, you're looking for them to come look at our organization and say, okay, this is the kind of talent I need. We're going to hire architects, we're going to hire senior product leaders, we need user experience designers, we need platform architects. We are going to need about 20 to 30 fresh grads who can come in and quickly do proof of concept. So having that vision of how to build an organization is the third important criteria, right? And finally, I think somebody who really can connect really well to the culture of this company, right? It's one thing to hire someone who is technically superior and strong in building organizations, but if they don't gel well with what Rakuten stands for, with our Shugi principles, then also it's not going to work out, right? This should be somebody who should truly understand what speed, passionately professional, what all these things really mean, so that then they can push that culture down to the rest of their organization. So these are probably 3 or 4 things that I would look for at the leadership level. From a senior manager level, I mean, we do a lot of things in terms of training. For example, our chief wellness officer, Seichu-san, he comes 2 to 3 times a year to our office to talk about Rakuten Shugi culture. How did Mickey and the founding team build this company, right? How did they take it from a 5-6 member startup to a 20,000 member organization? What does it take? So he, connecting with the founder of the company at that level helps a lot for the senior managers to understand how Rakuten was built. So this is some of the things that we do, right? And we also send our managers here to Japan and US for senior manager training, right? Where they get a lot of exposure to Japanese language, culture, how Rakuten works, how it was founded, what different examples of Shugi. So they get integrated into Rakuten's culture. So that's just a few examples of things that we do. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sunil. Bjorn, could you please share your experiences?
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. I would say I've seen, even here in the US, for the last maybe 2 years, we have matured so much more as an organization. It's kind of all coming together. And we talk about this like one team. And you see that not only within the business units, the technology division and so on. And there's a lot of focus on, I think, the people themselves. So talking about leadership, I mean, when you look at, if you want to be a good and strong leader in this organization, that means you, of course, you want to have a vision, kind of plant or kind of drive a good direction for what the team is doing. But you, as one single individual, can't do that without input from others. That means you need to seek input as a leader from your peers, maybe other leadership members, or very importantly also, seek advice and get input from the people that work in your team. And I think that's one thing, be a good listener as a leader. And then also, of course, creating that roadmap or plan. We do have a lot of good, and Sunil touched on this also, leadership training. You learn from other regions, learn from other members and so on, or you go to conferences where you can get new input or feedback. In terms of the senior management, I will also say there we have a really strong program in getting this training, taking the people and bringing them to the next level. And I think there's a much higher chance often to, let's say, take any individual that you have on your team in your organization and provide the tools and the training and promoting them. Hiring from outside into leadership roles is not always that easy. Coming in or being parachuted could, I don't know if it's a 50-50 chance of success, but having somebody that shows passion, shows the professionalism, and has grown into the system, learning if it's the technology or the business, and have them grow and kind of meeting their own personal goals in terms of their growth can be as successful as also hiring from outside. And I think that's what we have done a pretty good job at here in the US, and giving the chance and opportunity to the people and giving them the tools and the training to actually achieve that, and good mentorships from other managers and leaders. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Bjorn. So the next topic we would like to talk about are the different aspects of global collaboration. So on a daily basis, our employees worldwide participate in joint projects with colleagues in different regions. And what they face is, of course, the time difference, the culture and language difference, the work style difference, and so on. I think all of us have actually a lot of fun on a daily basis with these topics and have a lot of interesting stories. And we actually learn. There is no simple answer or a single solution to this. We learn on a daily basis, and we share and apply our experiences. So I would like to ask everyone to share your interesting learnings and fun stories on the language, culture, work styles, being remote, and so on. So shall we start with you, Kaoru?
Quick heads up, there's 10 minutes left.
Thank you very much.
So I think I have another fire chat after the meeting,
Oh, yes,
so I
we
can give some message to encourage Japanese, especially. But let me talk about the time differences. So I think sometimes we underestimate the time zone differences, which never we cannot overcome. This is the given situation of the physical situation. And what my experience is that we had one experience in like a global meeting, so which was held. Sometimes it happened in U.S. time zone, EU time zone, and so on. But when we had a EU AM, had a meeting at the EU AM, European time 8 a.m., and Japan is evening time, afternoon time, and America was midnight. So European leadership was very good at giving the speech, very good speech. Then, like he just talk, it's a morning time. It's a good tension and start very open, visionary talk and talk long. Then I got all the time chat from the U.S. colleagues that you can stop his talk.
This is not me. I just want to clarify. Kaoru is not talking about me.
The colleagues sitting in the U.S. chat all the time to me. Please make him stop him. It's too much. He is talking too much about the same thing for 10 minutes and so on. So I think it happens. People are very high tension sometimes in the morning, and people are very exhausted in the midnight. So then this is one experience. And also my advice is that you just need to experience by yourselves. So I had a periodical meeting between Japan and Germany, and I was usually attended in Germany. But when I visit to Tokyo, I attend the same meeting from Japan. It was so different. In the hot summer, Japan, humid, in the evening time, European morning is so fresh. Then people having same topic, same talk in European summer time zone, and Japan humid evening is so different. Please, just finish this meeting as much as possible, then just go home and drink is the mindset of Japan all the time. So then we cannot underestimate time zone. So then I just, this is not easy to overcome. But I just would like to my members to experience by themselves to attend the different time zone. So that's one of the ways. And the culture things is I try to always think this is the keep learning. So there's no answer and there's no finish. Then recent my experience that sometimes I need to convert from the Japanese high context culture to low context culture from other countries such as the US. So Japan is very safe and very safe society, very secure and safe in the society and working environment as well. So then usually people get lost the word, extra word of the grateful and thank you very much or respect yourself or giving the direct feedback. So try to work, especially for the remote team. It is easily to create the us and them after the meeting. So then try to give the feedback in person is very important sometimes to keep the a trust built relationship rather than as you are working with the people here in Japan on site. So Japanese tend to be not used to work in the same different location or remote communication. So then sometimes I am just forgetting the extra word of showing the grateful or thank you word and so on. But that is very helpful for the remote communication and I try to behave the person in US as they were in Japan.
Thank you very much, Kaoru, for the valuable advice. Sunil, could you please share your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Maybe one or two quick examples, with respect to cultural, how do we create harmony between cultures? Personally for me, maybe one example I can share is, both in India and perhaps in US as well, it's okay to have open-ended conversations around, when you're in a meeting, right? Maybe it's around the philosophy of design or, the right way to build products and so on. And that's an accepted part of the culture, right? But, when I deal with perhaps colleagues in Japan, I think open-ended conversations means you're not really prepared for this meeting, right? You're just come for a chit chat. So usually, when I work with Japan, I tend to have a few slides, which have one or two specific concrete proposals, maybe option A, B, and C, and use that to have a conversation, which then it becomes a lot more easier because people now know that, okay, you've actually thought about it, you have planned, and now you're discussing an option A, B, or C, as opposed to a completely open-ended conversation, which people in India and even US, are very comfortable with, right? So I've tried to bridge the two to the best extent possible. That's one example. In the interest of time, maybe I can pass it to Bjorn as well.
Thanks.
For his thoughts.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, there's about 5 minutes left, so would you like to take this opportunity to give us some quick closing remarks?
Definitely. So, Bjorn, if you could share a bit about your global collaboration experience, and then I'd like to ask everyone for a short comment, last advice to our audience. One thing that you would like everyone to keep in mind after.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much, Zoran. I'll be super quick here. I mean, 100% agree with what Kaoru and also Sunil was saying there. One thing that I think has been instrumental in our success also to work collaborate on a global basis, when Mickey instituted this notion of every in this company needs to speak English. And that has been instrumental in terms of us having a common platform to communicate on. The other thing I just want to touch on that was not maybe highlighted earlier, I think it's important when you are in a global environment give ownership, and if you have an office or multiple offices, have them own a certain part of, let's say, the platform or the code or something like that, and hold them accountable. Because it's a lot easier to also do constructive and proactive communication if these teams are doing that. So it's really important when you have, let's say, regular meetings, or when you meet or create the roadmap, that everybody actually feels part of whatever the goal is going forward. And that's something I've seen as we also are growing. If you have multiple offices, give them ownership to certain components, and then have that part of the bigger picture and architecture.
Thank you very much, Bjorn. So one last word of advice from everyone. So Kaoru, please.
So I think one of the things is it's very natural to creating the us and them culture. You know, if you have a video meeting with, for example, other countries such as Germany or UK, you can have always after small chat after turning off the video. This is naturally happen, then create the us and them culture. So the leader to make sure not try to change the us and them culture to we as having the team, to remind the team to have as having advantage as a global team, rather than you are a part of the global team. This is the one message I would say.
Thank you, Kaoru. Sunil, your key advice for.
So two quick points. I think one is the Rakuten culture of Asakai. Where every week once in the morning on Mondays, we meet where the CEO of the company shares so many things that are close to his heart. Whether it's the strategy or investments or operations, it's actually a fantastic thing because everybody down to from top all the way to the bottom of the organization, everybody now knows what is the vision of the company, what Mickey wants to do, where do we want to take the company. So it makes it that much more easier, where you no longer have to explain to people why are we investing in mobile, or so on and so forth, right? So I would say that's a great culture to have. And one last thing is hire the right leadership team, because it matters, particularly when you have to scale an organization to hundreds and thousands of people. You have to be very, very careful of who you bring in and who you develop. So leadership matters a lot. So that's all I have.
Thanks. You very much, Sunil. Bjorn, 30 seconds for your advice.
Yes, thank you. No, I think it's really important just to have one clear, solid vision that everybody kind of follows. And I do think right now we have that with the brand, the membership, and the data. Those are kind of three key components. Understanding where we're going as a company, and then as you kind of think about where you are in the organization, understanding how you can contribute to the growth, and last but not least, have fun along the way. I think that's important.
Thank you very much. You took away my final message. I wanted to say, please enjoy the variety, learn, enjoy the diversity, and have fun. So thanks, Bjorn. Fun is really important. So I would like to thank everyone. Hopefully this was useful and informative. Kaoru and me will be in person next door, unfortunately without Sunil and Bjorn, for a fireside chat right after this. So we look forward to hearing your thoughts and questions and feedback. So thank you very much. It was really a pleasure sharing our thoughts.
Thank you.